Hello and welcome to our viewers joining us from all around the world and to everyone streaming us on CNN Max. I'm Lynda Kinkade. Just ahead, emotions run high on day one of the Republican National Convention as Donald Trump makes his first public appearance since the assassination attempt. And amid growing scrutiny of the Secret Service agency in the wake of that shooting, the director breaks her silence, calling the incident unacceptable.
Live from Atlanta, this is CNN Newsroom with Lynda Kinkade.
Fight, fight, fight. That was the chant on day one of the Republican National Convention. Those same words came from Donald Trump Saturday following the assassination attempt. Trump appeared at the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee, Wisconsin Monday night after the party formally nominated him as their candidate for president. He had a white bandage on his right ear, which was hit by a would-be assassin in Pennsylvania. Trump was accompanied by his vice presidential pick, freshman Senator J.D. Vance of Ohio. If elected, Vance would be one of the youngest vice presidents in U.S. history at 39 years old. The opening night at the convention features stalwart Trump supporters, Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina and Governor Kristi Noem of South Dakota. There was also controversial speakers, including House Republican Marjorie Taylor Greene, all mentioning Saturday's assassination attempt.
On Saturday, the devil came to Pennsylvania holding a rifle, but an American lion got back up on his feet and he roared.
2 days ago, evil came for the man we admire and love so much. I thank God that his hand was on President Trump.
Prior to this week, we already knew that President Donald Trump was a fighter. He is the toughest man that I have ever met. Nobody has endured more than what he has gone through. They've attacked his reputation, they impeached him, they tried to bankrupt him, and they unjustly prosecuted him. But even in the most perilous moment this week, his instinct was to stand and to fight.
More now from CNN's Kristen Holmes in Milwaukee.
It was a very emotional scene on the ground in Milwaukee, Wisconsin tonight as former President Donald Trump walked out for the first time in public since that assassination attempt in Butler, Pennsylvania over the weekend. He had a bandage on his ear. He looked at times softer, almost as though he was going to cry. Spoke to a number of aides and allies, supporters, all of whom had not seen him yet, and they were shocked at what they saw. They believed that this was almost scary and also, again, incredibly emotional. And there were a lot of tears in the audience here, people who felt like this was a patriotic moment. And one of the things that we had heard from a number of people he had spoken to is that Donald Trump himself has said over and over again that he feels he is lucky to be alive, that he believes there was some sort of divine intervention. And talking to the people in the crowd here tonight, they think they saw that in his face. A number of them saying they think he is now a changed man. Now, what we do know is that Donald Trump himself has been focusing on this concept of unity when he is talking to, again, aides, allies, supporters. But whether or not that holds, that of course is going to be the big question moving forward. Donald Trump has not really been one to focus on unity. There have been brief moments of this in the past, but right now we are told that he scrapped his entire speech that he had written, or at least had an idea of in his head before that shooting took place, and now he wants to focus on unity. And that was also really what we saw a lot of in the speeches today. Maybe not necessarily a big focus on the concept of unity, but really staying away from the more violent rhetoric that we have heard in months past, weeks past, from a lot of these Republicans who were on the stage tonight. Now, of course, we don't know if this is going to be the only time we see the former president before he takes the stage again on Thursday. I know that he has been eager to be interacting with supporters and allies, and that was very clear here tonight, because at one point there was a question of whether or not Donald Trump would actually come yesterday to Milwaukee, but he did show up here, so very interesting to see how the rest of the week plays out. Of course, the big news again coming out of today was, one, the first time we're seeing him in public, and two, his announcement of Ohio Senator J.D. Vance to be his running mate. Kristen Holmes, CNN, Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Well, CNN spoke with people in the crowd about J.D. Vance's securing Trump's pick as his running mate. And despite the senator's past criticism of Trump, he got glowing reviews from the party faithful.
I've seen him on TV. I've seen him prosecute the case against the Democrats. I think no one's more articulate than that. And I think his story, his background, really helps us in a lot of the places that you're going to need from the Electoral College standpoint. And I think it's just going to be a great choice.
Of course, he had a lot of good people to choose from. But I think J.D. Vance is perfect. Those two men think alike. They like each other. They want to take the country in the same direction. I think they'll be a great, great team. Maybe the perfect team.
Well, the White House is also reacting to Trump's new vice presidential pick. Biden campaign officials say Vice President Kamala Harris reached out to Vance and left him a voicemail congratulating him on his selection. She hopes to meet with him at a vice presidential debate. But the Trump campaign has not yet accepted that invitation. President Biden, though, isn't surprised by the pick, referring to Vance as, quote, a clone of Trump on the issues. Speaking with NBC, the president pointed to Vance's shift in politics in recent years to align closer with Trump's platform. Take a listen.
He's going to surround himself with people who agree completely with him. Have a voting record. I support him. Even though if you go back and listen to the things J.D. Vance said about Trump.
Well, he said some things about you, yeah.
Oh, no, well, he said something about me, but see what he said about Trump. What's with you guys? Come on, man. Look, the point I'm making is that J.D. Vance has adopted the same policies, no exceptions on abortion, making sure that he supports the new $5 trillion tax cut that Trump wants to give in the next administration, signing on to the whole notion of whether or not we're going to, he says there's no climate change is happening. I mean, he signed on to the Trump agenda, which he should if he's running with Trump.
Ron Brownstein is CNN's senior political analyst and the senior editor for The Atlantic. He joins us from Los Angeles. Good to have you with us.
Hi, Lynda.
So, Ron, we saw Trump at the Republican National Convention for the first time since that assassination attempt. He will speak Thursday, and apparently he's ripped up his speech. His team are reworking it. What stood out to you on day one, and what do you think we'll hear when Trump speaks?
I think what stood out to me the most on day one was how they tried to have representatives who would kind of chip away at the Democratic coalition. You know, a number of black male speakers, women speakers, Latina speakers, and of course, maybe the most interesting event of the night was the speech by the head of the Teamsters Union, which was critical of both parties and kind of difficult to kind of figure out. I think a lot of delegates had trouble figuring out exactly how they were supposed to react to a Speaker of the Republican Convention, you know, praising unions and denouncing corporate power. So it was, I think, a confident kind of first night. Above all, obviously, it showed that this is Trump's party, the rapturous reception that he got, the kind of the tracking shot of him coming into the hall, reminiscent of what Bill Clinton did in 2000, which was itself reminiscent of Goodfellas and Martin Scorsese. So I think it was Trump's party, and it's a party that feels confident enough that it can try to make inroads into the Democratic coalition, which in fact, polling shows that they are in position to do, and that is the main reason why he's in a stronger overall position than he was at this point in 2020.
And of course, Trump announced his running mate, a former Yale graduate who once likened Trump to Hitler. Let's just take a listen to what he said in the past.
Yeah.
Half of the things that he says don't make any sense, or a quarter of the things that he says are offensive. I might have to hold my nose and vote for Hillary Clinton. I can't stomach Trump. I think that he's noxious and is leading the white working class to a very dark place.
I'm a never Trump guy. I never liked him. He seems to like actively antagonizing a lot of the black vote.
So that's Senator J.D. Vance, who once called himself a never Trump guy, who is now Donald Trump's running mate. Trump had other options. Why him?
Yeah, for J.D. Vance, I'm reminded of the old Saturday Night Live line, never mind. Look, I think he picked J.D. Vance because he wants a successor and an acolyte more than any immediate electoral advantage. I mean, there are others, you know, with Virginia suddenly in play, Glenn Youngkin would not have been a crazy pick. With their inroads among black men, Tim Scott would not have been a crazy pick. But I think J.D. Vance offers him someone who, in a way of repenting from that earlier resistance to Trump, has become one of the most full-throated advocates of the national populist MAGA agenda, and has gone from basically arguing, as you saw in that clip, that Trump represented a dead end for the white working class to kind of presenting him as salvation. I think it suggests that he sees Vance as an inheritor of his movement. It's not a pick that does an enormous amount in the kind of immediate electoral sense. I think Democrats don't view Vance as really expanding Trump's reach in any important way, but it does give him someone who is not going to challenge him. And you can bet if it somehow came down to it, he would not make the kind of decision that Mike Pence did on January 6th. In fact, Vance has openly said that, Trump should be willing to defy Supreme Court decisions. So I think it's loyalty and succession more than immediate political benefit.
Yeah, you make some good points. I have to ask you, though, Ron, politically speaking, what does the assassination attempt mean for both Trump and Biden?
Well, look, one thing it clearly does, and you saw that tonight, and this was something Trump was good at anyway, it is going to mean enormous Republican turnout. I mean, this Republican idea that Trump is being persecuted and his success at convincing the Republican base that he's being persecuted on their behalf, it obviously got turbocharged. Now, we don't know anything about the motive of the shooter. What we do know, does not accord with the narrative that somehow this is the left targeting Donald Trump. In fact, neighbors were telling Pittsburgh Television they saw Trump signs in front of the house. But I think at the least it does that. Second, it does complicate for Democrats the democracy argument. You saw the president today kind of struggling in his interview with Lester Holt to figure out exactly how to talk about, Donald Trump and his relationship to democracy. I mean, Donald Trump is still the same person who said his opponents are communists and Marxists and fascists and live in this country like vermin. That is still Donald Trump. The Republican platform still talks about mass deportation. So everything that was true about Donald Trump before the shooting is true after the shooting. The challenge of how you express that in this environment, I think, is going to be an issue for Democrats. But I also think that, any more than the debate, I'm not sure this fundamentally changes the dynamic. Trump is ahead because voters are dissatisfied with Biden's performance, and 2/3 of them think he is too old. Biden has an uphill climb if Democrats stick with him, but I'm not sure this fundamentally puts the race out of reach, as some Republicans are saying, particularly if Democrats do switch their nominee, which looks less and less likely.
Yeah. All right. We'll leave it there for now. We'll talk again soon, no doubt. Ron Brownstein, thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Well, we are learning new details about the investigation into the attempted assassination of Donald Trump and the movements of the shooter ahead of that attack. We'll have the latest when we come back.